Imagine waking up to a world where your savings are worthless, hyperinflation, bank failures, geopolitical instability. What if there was one asset that could protect you from all of it? This isn't about getting rich. This is about financial survival. Discover the hidden power of gold. Not as a luxury, but as your ultimate crisis safe haven. Now I know what you're thinking. Another video about gold? But hear me out, because what I'm about to show you isn't the usual investment pitch. This is about understanding something far more fundamental. We're going to explore why gold appears at the center of every major financial collapse, why it's mentioned in every economic meltdown, and why the people who profit most from crises already know what I'm about to tell you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why gold isn't just a metal or a commodity. You'll see it for what it really is, the place people run to when the systems we trust every day start to crack. And more importantly, you'll understand why knowing this before everyone else figures it out might be the most valuable financial insight you ever gain. Let's start with something most people never question. The money in your bank account. Right now, it feels real, doesn't it? You check your balance, you see numbers, you trust those numbers represent value. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That money is nothing more than a promise. A promise from your government that those numbers mean something. A promise that tomorrow, next month, next year, you'll still be able to exchange those digits for food, shelter, security. And promises can be broken. Think about it. The cash in your wallet, the balance in your account, none of it is backed by anything tangible anymore. We left that world behind decades ago. Your money exists because everyone agrees it exists. It has value because we collectively believe it has value. It's a shared illusion, and like all illusions, it's fragile. History is littered with the corpses of currencies that once seemed invincible. The German Reichsmark in the 1920s. People needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy bread. Zimbabwe in the 2000s, where inflation got so extreme, they printed a $100 trillion note, and it couldn't buy you a bus ticket. Venezuela, right now, where a month's salary can't purchase a week's groceries. These weren't backwards economies. These were functioning nations with central banks, with smart economists, with all the modern financial infrastructure we take for granted. What happened? The promise broke. The trust evaporated. And when that happens, when people stop believing in the paper, the entire system collapses in days. Now you might think, that won't happen here. Not in my country, we're stable. And maybe you're right. Maybe. But let me ask you something. Have you noticed the debt levels lately? Most major economies are drowning in obligations they can never repay. We're not talking about billions anymore. We're talking about trillions upon trillions. That debt doesn't just disappear. Someone, at some point, pays the price. Usually, it's the people holding the currency when the bill comes due. And it's not just about debt. Look around. Geopolitical tensions are rising. Trade wars, actual wars, supply chain disruptions, energy crises. The system we built, this intricate global financial network, it runs on stability, it requires predictability. But we're living in increasingly unpredictable times. Here's what most people don't understand about crises. They think a crisis is just a bad recession. A few tough years, then things bounce back. But real systemic crises, the ones that reshape everything, they don't announce themselves. They arrive suddenly. One day everything seems fine, and the next, the rules have changed completely. Black swan events, they call them. Rare, unpredictable, catastrophic. Except they're not really that rare. We've seen multiple black swans just in the last 2 decades: the 2008 financial collapse, the 2020 pandemic. Each time the system came within inches of total breakdown. Each time governments had to print unimaginable amounts of money just to keep things functioning. And each time they told us it was under control, everything would be fine. But here's what they don't tell you. Every time they print more money, every time they take on more debt, every time they patch the system with another temporary fix, they make the next crisis worse. They're not solving the problem, they're delaying it. And the longer you delay a reckoning, the more violent it becomes when it finally arrives. So what do? How do you protect yourself when the very foundation of modern finance is built on trust that might evaporate? This is where gold enters the story, and this is where everything I've just told you starts to make sense. Gold has been here longer than any government, longer than any currency, longer than any economic system we've ever devised. 5,000 years ago, civilizations that had never met each other, separated by oceans and mountains, all independently decided gold was valuable. Why? Not because someone told them to, not because a government decreed it, but because gold has properties that make it perfect for storing value across time. Think about what happens when an empire falls. The palaces crumble, the armies scatter, the currency becomes worthless paper or corroded metal. But the gold remains. You could take a gold coin from ancient Rome, and people today would still recognize its value. The empire is dust. The gold is eternal. This isn't superstition. This is human nature playing out across millennia. When everything else fails, when systems collapse and promises break, people return to gold. It's happened so many times throughout history that it's basically a law of human behavior. Look at 2008. The global financial system nearly imploded. Banks that had stood for over a century vanished overnight. Your retirement funds, if you had them in stocks, got cut in half. People who thought they were financially secure discovered they weren't. But gold doubled in value over the following years. Not because gold suddenly became more useful, but because people remembered what gold actually is. A shelter, a safe haven, the place you go when fear takes over. Or look at early 2020. The pandemic hits. The entire world shuts down, markets crash, economies freeze. Uncertainty everywhere. And again, people flooded into gold. Not to get rich, to survive. To preserve what they had while everything around them burned. You see the pattern. Gold doesn't make you wealthy during good times. Gold protects you during bad times. And right now we need to talk about why gold can do something your bank account never could. First, scarcity. There's only so much gold on Earth. You can't print more. You can't create it from nothing. Every ounce that exists had to be pulled from the ground through enormous effort and expense. That scarcity is built into reality itself, not enforced by a government that might change its mind tomorrow. When governments panic and start printing money to solve their problems, your savings lose value. But they can't print gold. Nobody can. Second, divisibility. You can break gold down into smaller and smaller pieces, and it never loses its essential nature. A gold bar, a gold coin, gold dust, it's all the same element. This makes it functional as money in ways that other scarce resources aren't. Try dividing a house or a painting. Impossible without destroying the value. Third, durability. Gold doesn't rust, doesn't decay, doesn't degrade. You could bury gold in the ground for 1,000 years, dig it up, and it would be exactly the same. This means it can store value across generations in a way almost nothing else can. And finally, the most important property, physical reality. Gold exists in the real world. You can hold it. You can see it. It doesn't require electricity or internet connectivity or a functioning banking system. In a crisis, when the power goes out, when the banks close, when the digital systems fail, gold still works. It's there. It's real. It's yours. Now, I'm not here to tell you that digital currencies or stocks or bonds are worthless. They have their place. But they exist in a different realm. They require functioning systems, stable governments, reliable infrastructure. Gold doesn't require any of that. Gold is the fallback, the foundation, the option that remains when all other options disappear. And here's the key insight, the thing that separates people who survive financial catastrophes from people who don't: timing. When a crisis hits, everyone rushes to the exits at once. Everyone suddenly remembers that gold exists. They all try to buy it at the same time. And what happens when everyone wants something simultaneously? The price explodes. By the time the average person realizes they need protection, it's already too late to get it at a reasonable cost. The people who win, the ones who come out of crises stronger than they went in, they're not smarter than you. They're not luckier than you. They're just positioned differently. They saw the warning signs. They studied history. They understood that crises aren't aberrations. They're features of complex systems, and they moved before the crowd. Think about it like this. Imagine a theater. Everything seems fine. Everyone's watching the show. But you notice something, smoke, just a wisp, barely visible. Most people don't see it. They're focused on the performance. But you know what smoke means. You know that in a few minutes, maybe less, everyone in this theater is going to realize there's a fire, and they're all going to run for the same exit. Do you wait until the flames are visible? Do you wait until everyone's screaming? Or do you quietly stand up and walk out now while it's easy? That's the choice you face with gold. You can wait until the crisis is obvious. You can wait until the currency is collapsing, until the banks are failing, until everyone around you is panicking. Or you can understand what gold represents and position yourself now while it's calm, while you can think clearly. This isn't about fear. This is about pattern recognition. Throughout all of human history, financial systems have failed, currencies have collapsed, governments have broken their promises, and every single time the people who anticipated it, the ones who understood the cycle, they're the ones who preserved their wealth. They're the ones who had the resources to rebuild when everyone else was starting from zero. Gold is their secret. Not because gold makes you rich, but because gold keeps you from becoming poor when everything else burns down. Let me be clear about something. I'm not telling you to sell everything and buy gold bars. I'm not giving you financial advice. What I'm doing is showing you a pattern that most people never see. I'm giving you a framework for understanding why certain assets behave the way they do during times of extreme stress. The modern financial world wants you to believe everything is stable, everything is safe, everything is under control. And most of the time they're right. Most of the time the system works, but most of the time isn't all of the time. And it's that small percentage, those rare moments when the system breaks. That's when your entire financial life can be destroyed or protected. The difference between those two outcomes isn't luck, it's preparation, it's understanding. It's seeing gold not as a shiny metal you buy when you're greedy, but as a foundation you build before you're desperate. So here's what we covered today. We looked at why modern money is more fragile than it appears, why trust and stability can evaporate faster than anyone expects. We examined gold's unique position in human history, how it survived every empire, every collapse, every crisis. We explored the specific properties that make gold function as a safe haven: scarcity, divisibility, durability, physical reality. And most importantly, we discussed timing: why the people who benefit from understanding gold are the ones who act before the crisis, not during it. If you've made it this far, you're already thinking differently than you were 10 minutes ago. You're seeing gold not as an investment, not as a way to get wealthy, but as something else entirely. A form of insurance, a hedge against the unthinkable, the last line of defense when everything else fails. And that's the shift I wanted you to make. Because once you understand gold this way, once you truly grasp what it represents, you stop looking at it through the lens of greed and start looking at it through the lens of survival. You stop asking, how much can I make? And start asking, what happens if the system breaks? That's the question smart people ask themselves in quiet moments. That's the question that separates those who see danger coming from those who get blindsided by it. Study this. Think about it. Look at history. Look at the patterns. And then decide for yourself what role gold should play in your financial life. Because the next crisis, whenever it comes, whatever form it takes, it won't announce itself politely. It'll arrive suddenly. And the preparations you make today in calm waters, those will determine whether you sink or float when the storm finally hits. Stay enlightened.